Basically, beer is made out of 4 ingredients: malted barley, hops, water, and yeast. Essentially what you do is you extract sugar out of the malted barley, then you convert those sugars into simple sugars. You create a liquid that you boil, add hops to it. That liquid goes into a fermenter where you add yeast. The yeast ferments the product, creates carbon dioxide and alcohol, and then it becomes beer. Simple. The cost for setting up a brewery is kind of a loaded question. It depends on how much technology you want. But I would put it at a minimum of $1 million for a setup that works really well. Right now we have 4 fermenters and 5 serving tanks for production. Otherwise we have a brew house and a cold water tank. Well, the main difference between a home brewer and a brewer that brews at this capacity, I don't believe that we're better than they are. I just don't want to be the home brewer.
Whoops.
Which year are you out?
Junior. I wasn't supposed to drop that in there. Yeah, my name's Kevin Holmes. And I mean, I've been brewing for probably about 3 years at this point. What I do here is more of small batch, one-off of a particular style that I'm trying to create a certain flavor with what I'm going on. I bottle it and I present it to mostly myself and my friends. I really like beer. I really like beer. And I mean, I was trying a bunch of different styles and stuff, and eventually I found out that I could make 5 gallons of beer for about $50, and it seemed really reasonable. Yeah, what you're drinking there is 12 pounds of American Suro, and then it has a pound.
There are a lot of home brewers that have plenty of equipment, a lot of just really nice things so they can make beer a little bit easier. It becomes a good hobby. So obviously when we spend money on our hobbies, we spend a lot of money on our hobbies.
And I found this cooler on the side of the road that has been a godsend, because after I spent $17, I mean, $7 on the valve, a couple on that, there's a toilet pipe overflow casing that I use as a filter for my beer.
I've had some marvelous home brews in my life, and I've had some really shitty beers from microbreweries. So it doesn't really matter. It depends on the person that's making the beer and how much they care.
My name's Townsend, and I'm the assistant brewer at Three Wiseman Brewing Company. When we start to make the beer, the very first thing we do is we auger the grain, and then we mash into the brew kettle. And what that means is we auger the grain over and we spray it with hot water, and we basically make like a slurry, right, of hot water and grain.
You hold it at a temperature of about 154 degrees, and that's the one where the sugars will get into the water, and then the grains will get out of the water once you raise that temperature up to 167 degrees. That's like when you mash out, and then just all of the particle just kind of drops, and you can filter the sweet wort just out of the kettle.
And then the water tun has like, I guess kind of like plates that are act as a filter, right? So we're gonna start running that liquid that's on that grain back into the brew kettle, and we're gonna basically do it in such a way so that we end up with very little, like, we want pretty clear liquid, right? And that's gonna be the wort. That's gonna be the start of the wort, right?
The next step in the brewing process would be, I mean, once it's brewed, you want to cool it down as quickly as you can, and I just use an ice bath. A lot of people use a wort chiller, which will like take it through some cold spoils of coil.
And we're gonna run it through this heat exchanger, and the heat exchanger is gonna take that wort from like 200 degrees plus down to like 68 degrees, like really fast, like 30 seconds or something, right?
I don't know, I've always had a supply of ice that makes me be able to just throw it in an ice bath and cool it down that way.
We put the wort in there about 68 degrees, and so the wort and the yeast and the oxygen will all get mixed up, and then the fermentation process should happen, assuming you've pitched the correct amount of yeast and you did everything else correctly.
Once it's cold, pitch your yeast. Brewers make wort, yeast makes beer. I mean, that's the end of it. Yeast is the shit. Yeah.
We'll, basically, fill up one of these guys and then we'll carbonate it. Then usually, the beer's pretty much ready at that point.
I don't think anybody's as great as I am. Just kidding. No, take that out.
I like my beer better than other people's because I know that I've made it, and I know that it's something that came from my own work, and that I know why I put the things in it, and that when people sample it with me, that whenever they just tell me that they like it, I mean, that's kind of flattering, but whenever somebody tells me that they love the way that I put, those particular hops, now it comes off like quite grapey, or it comes off quite citrusy or grapefruity or something, like that really just makes me happy. It's really actually simple shit. Seems like it.
It's good. It's good.
Was that good? I mean, are we good? Are we good?
Awesome.
This is nice.
Anybody else got anything before
I'm
we
glad
shut it
you
down?
have this like coolness with whatever the hell I'm doing here.